What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, but I am here on the Fanalytics YouTube channel once again with another great video. This time we are going over the top 10 Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man keys. We're going to look at if any of them look appealing to be purchasing right now or safe to purchase right now, if you should be avoiding them or just watching for the time being. Now, I did the first half of this video. I did books 10 through 6 on my YouTube channel, and now I am doing books 5 through 1 on this channel, as well as the consolidation of all that information where we're going to look at which books are appealing right now, which ones you want to avoid, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you came over from the other channel, you know we're doing a giveaway as part of this video, and it is this right here, Amazing Spider-Man number 46. If you want a chance to win this book, you've got to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with hashtag Fanalytics. I will put the hashtag right here on the screen. So make sure you leave a comment with that and you will have a chance to win this book. I have already mailed out the giveaway from the last video. Thank you for everybody that liked and subscribed and commented on this channel. This was the comment that won, and like I said, that book has already been mailed out. So thanks again for everybody that participated in the last video. Just for a quick recap on the video on my channel, I went through the first 5 books, so 10 through 6 of the top 10 Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man keys. And in this one, I'm going over 5 through 1. Now, these do not include Amazing Fantasy 15 or Amazing Spider-Man 1. If you would like to see the information on those books, I already talked about them in my top 10 Silver Age Grails video. That is one of the other videos on this channel. So what I did with these books is I looked at what the prices are for these books right now in their most common grade, and that's based on the CGC census. And then I looked at what I think the price would be based on the historical returns these books have normally gotten. And you always have to remember, this is my analysis on these. There's nothing that says you have to buy them at these prices or you have to sell or you know, all that kind of stuff. You need to make sure you do your own work as well to make sure you're comfortable with any purchases, all that kind of thing that you make with these books. But this is based on what I see in the data right now, so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. All right, before we get into these, make sure you go check out the Fanalytics Instagram page. There you can register for the beta release that is coming out soon. All right, now let's get into these books. Now, if you haven't seen the first half of this video, don't worry, you can go back and watch that one later. You can still enjoy this video without having to watch the other half first, but I want to give a quick recap on what's on the screen here in case you haven't seen that video. I've got the CGC census data where I have the total number of copies that have been graded as well as the total number of universal copies. Then I also have the most common grade. I use the most common grade because it gives me the most sales data so I can get hopefully the most accurate information. Then I have the number of copies that are on the census in that grade. Now, on the bottom there, I have the pricing data for this book. I've got what I estimate the current price as based on current sales. Then I have the return that this book was providing from 2015 to 2020, as well as the return it was providing from 2002 to 2012. Now, I discussed this in the prior video, but again, just the recap, I used these two numbers because I noticed that the returns from 2015 to 2020 seemed a little high for a lot of these books. So I wanted to look at prior data just to see what these books have been doing. And that gives me a range for where I think these books should be selling today based on those returns. And so I take the return that I've calculated for the book, apply it to what the price was in 2020 to see what I think the price should be today. Then I look at if that price is lower than the current price or higher than the current price. If it's lower, it means maybe we've got some downside risk to this book. If it's higher, it means it might be an undervalued book right now, something that's safer to buy. You have a lower risk that this book will continue moving down. All right, so in that prior video, I went through 10 through 6. Now we're starting at number 5 here, and this is Amazing Spider-Man number 4. First appearance of the Sandman, again, one of the original Spider-Man villains, part of the Sinister Six. And the most common grade, you can see here, is a 4.0 with 314 blue labels. Total census, 3,057 with 2,667 universal copies. Now, the current price for a 4.0 is $1,500. The pre-boom return on this book was 12% from 2015 to 2020, and the return from 2002 to 2012 was just 5%. Based on this book selling for $825 in 2020, that would put the current estimated value at between $955 and $1,150. There's a pretty significant downside risk to this book right now, anywhere from around 23% to 36% downside risk, $350 to about $550. So definitely a book to me that looks pretty risky to buy right now. All right, now let's move to number 4, and this is Amazing Spider-Man number 2, first appearance of the Vulture, third appearance of Spider-Man. Again, another one of those big early Spider-Man villains. Most common grade. This one finally a different number. A 3.0 is the most common grade with just 226 blue labels on the census. Total census, 2,774 with 2,235 blue labels. Current price for a 3.0 is $1,800. Now, the interesting thing with this one is you can see the pre-boom return from 2015 to 2020 and the return from 2002 to 2012 are almost the same. A lot of the other books I've shown, it's really big differences in those returns. This one, not so much. 6% and 5%. Now, this book in 2020 was going for about $1,000. That would put the price range of this book at $1,150 to $1,200. Really significant downside risk, it seems, with this book. Anywhere from 33 to 36% downside risk, $600 to $650. So definitely a book that I would be avoiding right now. This one had a peak sale of $3,500 in a 3.0. It's come down 49% since then, and appears to me that it still has some ways to go that it could continue to drop. All right, now let's move on to number 3. Again, finally a different grade for this one. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 50. First appearance of Kingpin, one of Spider-Man's biggest long-term villains, as well as a major villain for Daredevil. Most common grade is a 4.5 with 575 blue labels. This book has way more copies on census than any of the other ones that we've talked about. It's much later as well, so that plays a big role in it, but 7,000 total copies on census with 5,813 blue labels. Current price is $625 for this 4.5. Now, prior to the comic boom, 2015 to 2020, this book was going up at a 13% annual return. From 2002 to 2012, going up at a 6% return. Now, this book in 2020 was going for $360. That would put its price today at somewhere between $430 to $520. So again, another book that has a pretty significant downside risk to it, anywhere from 17% to 31% downside risk. So again, a book that I would be avoiding today. Now, it had a peak sale of $1,440. It's come down 57% since then, and I think it still has some ways to go. Now, this book, it just got overheated during the comic boom and when Kingpin came back to the MCU, and I just think that this is a risky book still to buy right now. All right, now let's move on to number 2. And some people might disagree with this. Maybe they have this as number 1. I have this one as number 2. This is the first appearance of Green Goblin, Amazing Spider-Man, number 14. Arguably the biggest Spider-Man villain of all time. The argument would probably be with the number 1 choice that I have on this list. Most common grade is a 4.0 with 364 universal copies. Total count on the census is 5,056 with 4,210 blue labels. Now, the number of copies that are graded of this book might tell you that this is maybe the number 1. There are a lot of copies graded. There's a lot of demand for this book. Now, the current price for a 4.0, $1,750. Now, this one is pretty crazy what this book was doing from 2015 to 2020. It was returning 22%. That is one of the largest numbers I think I've seen in any of these videos that I've done. But from 2002 to 2012, it was doing about the same as every other book on this list, just 5% annual return. Now, in 2020, a 4.0 was going for $1,150. That would put its price today at somewhere between $1,330 and $2,100. This is a huge range, and it's because that 22% is pretty outsized. I think that's probably pretty unlikely, but 5% seems crazy for really the most popular or one of the most popular Spider-Man villains to only be returning 5% compared to other big Silver Age keys. That was a surprising number. I was fairly shocked to see that it was only 5%. But we've got a pretty big range here, anywhere from having a 20% upside to a 24% downside. It's tough to say what to do with this one. It really is a book that I think was probably underperforming for a long time, given how important this character is, but then it maybe got a little too overheated for a while. So I think it's probably somewhere in the middle there, but I would really just want to wait a little while and see what it calms down to before I'd pull the trigger on this book. Now, in a 4.0, this book had a peak sale of $3,251 during the comic boom. It has come down 46%. So it's come down a lot, but still one that I would be a little hesitant about right now. All right, now let's go to number 1. I'm sure you know what this book is. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 3, first appearance of Doc Ock, again, one of the big Spider-Man villains. Now, most common grade, again, was a 4.0, 218 universal copies on the census, 2,981 total copies on census with 2,296 blue labels. Current price for a 4.0 is $2,400. The pricing has been really weird on this book right now. You have prices from the 3.0 to the 4.0 going for about the same price, and I've seen prices in the 3.0 and 3.5 selling for more than the 4.0s recently. It's always confusing when you see sales numbers like that, but that's what we've been seeing. Now, prior to the comic boom, 2015 to 2020 had a return of 18%, pretty outsized return. But from 2002 to 2012 was returning just 6%, very similar to Amazing Spider-Man number 14. So based on those numbers, this book was going for $1,600 in 2020. That would put its price at anywhere from $1,900 to $2,625. So we have a potential 9% upside all the way to a 21% downside. So one that does look pretty appealing right now. I think you might have a little trouble getting it at that $2,400 price, given the prices that I've seen for the 3 and the 3.5s. You probably have to wait for the right auction or something like that. But one that is a watch candidate for me, definitely, just because it's such a major Spider-Man key, Silver Age key in general, but also definitely has a little bit of a downside risk to it right now. Now, it did have a peak sale in a 4.0 of $4,800. It has come down 50% since then. Pretty significant correction on this book, but I still think there may be a little downside still to give on this one. All right, now I know this can be a little tough to read. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of information on there, but don't worry, I'm going to break it out by those different areas, which ones are potential buy candidates right now, which ones you want to avoid, and which ones you want to watch. But I just want to have this up here so you can take a look at it if you want to see everything together. Now, first, let's take a look at those potential buys. And there are 2 of them on here. And when I say potential buys, I mean these are the books that I feel like have limited downside risk right now, maybe a little bit of upside potential to them. First one is Amazing Spider-Man number 6. Has a downside risk of just 8% to 0%. So basically it's valued where I think it should be right now. And with these numbers that I'm using, I'd say that is about as close as we can hope to get. So Amazing Spider-Man number 6 feels like it is a relatively safe book to purchase right now, in my opinion. The other one is Amazing Spider-Man number 15. This one has a potential upside of 11% to a potential downside of 13%. So the downside risk isn't all that bad, just 13%, with the potential for some upside there. The other thing is we've got this Craven movie that's going to be coming out. And so I think that could be something that gives it a little bit more of a push in the future. Now, let's take a look at the books I think you should avoid. And there are quite a few of them, 5 of them that I would be avoiding right now. We've got Amazing Spider-Man number 50, 2, 4, 31, and 13. All of these, in my opinion, have pretty significant downside risk to them right now. Most of them hitting that 30% mark, with a lot of them being in the 20 to 30% range. So to me, these are all books that I would avoid right now, regardless of what any movie speculation or TV shows or anything like that are with them. I think that they just got too overheated, haven't corrected enough yet, and have a lot of downside risk still today. All right, now let's take a look at the books that I think you should just watch right now. There are 3 books here. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 3, 14, and 9. Now, 3 and 14 are definitely the most appealing in this group to me. 9 was actually right on the edge of avoid or watch, and it's because it's got that downside risk of 30%. Now, 3 and 14, the reason these two are appealing to me is, one, because they're two of the biggest keys for Spider-Man, and two, there's actually some potential upside to them. Now, do I think that they could continue to return 18 and 22%? No, I don't. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, but at least that tells me that the risk is probably relatively low, but it's one that I would just wait and see what happens with them, because there is a relatively large range with these. Now, Amazing Spider-Man number 9, it's one where it has corrected a lot, and maybe it has a relatively low risk on the downside, but that 30% still makes me nervous. And so I would just take a wait and see approach with it. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about here was just something that I've noticed with how a lot of people approach buying and selling comics. It's based on what I hear from other people I talk to, or from comments that I see on these videos. And I noticed that a lot of people take this all or nothing approach. It's that, oh, everything is dropping or everything is going up. And that, oh, I'm going to wait in, a year and then I'll buy them then because everything will be cheaper. But what I've seen is that isn't necessarily the case. And that's why I think it's important to talk about this. And you can see that here with these books versus these, is that everything doesn't move up or down at the same time. We saw that during the comic boom too. You didn't have every book spike at the same time. They spiked over the course of about a year and a half. And you had books correct over the course of about a year and a half, not all at the same time. So at least based on my estimates, you have, with these 10 Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man key issues, there are 2 right now that look pretty appealing or safe to buy, whereas there are 5 that look very risky to buy right now, 5 that I would be avoiding, and 3 that are just kind of a watch, wait and see what happens with them. And while some people might not like the financial side of things when we talk about this, you got to remember, regardless, these are expensive. These are things we spend our hard-earned money on it. And why not try to get the most out of your money when you're building up your collection or you're buying and selling these books? So that's why I think it's just important to take a look at this type of information, because it just really tells you there are certain times that are better to buy books than other times. And in this case right now, like I said, there are a couple books that look pretty appealing right now, and a bunch of them that I would be avoiding. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this top 10 Spider-Man Silver Age key video. Maybe helped you with making some buying or selling decisions with books that you have or books that you've been looking to pick up. Remember, if you want a chance to win this book, Amazing Spider-Man number 46, first appearance of the Shocker, you have got to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment with #Fanalytics. Again, thank you everybody for coming over here, watching this video as well. And remember, I will be releasing regular content here on the Fanalytics YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when those videos come out in the future.